Most cooks know about bay leaves and how to add them to soups and stews for added flavor. But did you know that it also has a lot of nutrition to offer us? And there are other uses as well. So stay tuned for that information. Hi, I'm Mary Bourne. I'm a traditional naturopath and I love sharing natural remedies with people. Natural remedies have been around for hundreds, even thousands of years because they work and they work on people. Many of these herbs and plants are also considered food or things that we add to our food, such as spices for flavor. Bay leaves are pretty mild when they're fresh. So most bay leaves are used when they're dried. And then the essential oil in the leaf actually intensifies. When you put it in a meal, you usually put it in whole. I usually add 2 to 3 good size bay leaves for a pot of soup or stew that would be about 8 cups. After the meal is cooked, generally I pluck them out, and most cooks do. And that's not because they're toxic. It's because they really don't chew well. When you do the best you can at chewing them up, and they tend to have some very sharp edges. And so they can be a choking hazard. So it is generally recommended that you pluck them out before serving. But my husband and I used to tease and say they got the prize if somebody discovered a bay leaf that was left in. But mostly the prize was just a smile from the rest of the people around the table. So there are lots of, get this going there. There are lots of ways that you can use the bay leaves in a soup or stew or even a tea. And this is a pretty good size tea ball. It holds quite a bit of herbs, and there are other herbs that you can add to it. These are little mesh bags that you could put the tea in, and some of them actually come with a little scoop that you can scoop the broken up leaves and herbs, whole herbs, even peppercorns and things like that can be added to a mesh bag like this and then put into your soup and stew. And then it's easy to just pull it out and not have to worry about missing any. So some of the herbs that are used in these are, there's a herb de Provence that is used, and it usually has bay and rosemary and thyme and basil and fennel and savory, and even some of them will add things like tarragon, oregano, parsley, and even lavender. So a lot of cooks will play with different flavors and see what actually will enhance their dish. These are some of the health benefits that I will link to in the description below where I got this information, but it helps in improving digestive health. And if you make a tea or tincture out of it, you can put it with your conditioner. It helps to improve heart health, reduces anxiety and stress. So a lot of people will make a tea out of it, or they'll combine things like chamomile and herbs that have a nicer flavor, even mint. They're great for treating menstrual problems, respiratory conditions. It's a super anti-inflammatory, so it helps with any condition that is a chronic condition of inflammation. And some studies show that it helps in cancer prevention. Anytime that you have antioxidant that is also anti-inflammatory. You're going to deter conditions that are taking advantage of the body, like cancer, diabetes. And it also helps in inducing sleep. So the other day, my granddaughter Jessica was over and we made gingerbread houses and decorated them. And we were having this discussion. She looked over and saw my bag from Azure Market of bay leaves, and she was awed by them. And she said, Grandma, I just went and got the little tiny bottle of organic bay leaves because I had run out and it cost me $6. And I said, yes, I hunted far and wide for a better deal on bay leaves. I couldn't believe how expensive they were. And lo and behold, the market that we go to once a month, you drive to, a semi is there, people help to unload it. It's really kind of a fun experience, and you can get some great prices for bulk foods. So I'll leave a link in the description below for Azure Standard, and you can check it out yourself. I love to get the fresh celery from them. I use celery in a lot of things, and I've tried freeze drying and dehydrating them and freezing them. And actually, fresh is best, and especially if you want to eat the heart part of it whole. We like them chopped up in salads, and so we go through a lot of celery. And it's wonderful to be able to buy this in fresh form. There are a lot of things you can still get even during the winter in fresh form, because Azure Market draws from a lot of farms that grow organically, or especially without chemicals. And so sure to check them out. They have a lot of things that like ghee and flours and whole grains. So there's a good selection. So pantry insects and pests can inhabit and feed on common cooking and baking ingredients, such as flour, nuts, dried fruit, or other stored products like pet food. And having one of those mesh tea balls full of bay leaves hanging somewhere in your cupboard can deter them. Storing food in plastic tight lid containers is also an answer, but some people don't like to use plastic, and so they will use these 5-gallon drums and put paper bags of things, and you can pop the bay leaves in and around the paper bags. I wouldn't necessarily put the bay leaves directly in my flour because it might leave some kind of a flavor. So I've often just taken the whole bay leaves and tucked them in the corner of a cupboard, because we are inundated with moths and things that can eat pasta, things like that. So I try to use as much natural as I can. I certainly don't want to be using chemicals near my food. So there are some websites that I will link to in the description below that will talk more about how you can use bay leaves to protect against these harmful pests. And also, they are wonderful to add to a potpourri. So if you have like rose bushes that create rose hips, maybe some sage, a little bit of pine, some dried oranges, a little bit of clove. Those are really fun to add to a potpourri. And also they not only make the house smell good, but they do a lot more. So be sure to look into bay leaves. Try to add them to your food. There are plenty of recipes out there that include bay leaves, and perhaps you can pick up one of those mesh balls or some bags. I actually prefer the muslin unbleached bags, and I crack them up the leaves and stick them in there with a bit of rosemary, because I'm not a fan of rosemary needles, so to speak, having them in my food, and they don't seem to chop up really well. So I will add them with my bay leaves to a mesh bag that can be pulled out later on. But in the meantime, you can have some wonderful benefits that you can add to bone broth and foods that you prepare. You know, it's really amazing how just taking 10 or 15 minutes in the morning, putting stuff into a food into a crock pot and having a nice warm dinner waiting for you when you come home from work or from shopping, or if you're gone for any length of time. I love slow cooking food. I used it a lot when I was working away from home, and it was so nice to be looking forward to that soup or stew when we got home and not have to worry about driving through some long line for the drive-in for some inferior food that wasn't going to keep us healthy or satisfy our nutritional needs. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video on bay leaves, that you share it with your friends, and give me a thumbs up if you liked it. Give me a comment. I love hearing from you, and subscribe. I value each one of you. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me at drmary@bornforhealth.com. Remember that food is our medicine, and it can also be our downfall. So make sure you are choosing nutritionally dense food that can contribute to good health. And I hope that you have a wonderful and blessed holiday season. And again, share these videos with your friends. Get control of your health by focusing on herbs and healthy eating. I have a plethora of videos on individual herbs and how they can add to our nutrition, as well as helping keeping us in good health through these months. So be thankful for the people around you, the gifts of nature, the flowers, and all the joy around you. And I want to thank you again for viewing. And until next time, this is Dr. Mary for the Health of It.